let's look at the flow for dealing with payments, for handling insurance claims and that. So to get started, you want to log in. After logging in, you come to billing and you can get started with transactions. Alright. So you're showing the number of records that you're seeing for the transactions that have been processed, what amount is covered by insurance, the amount that has been paid, any outstanding bills. Right? You can search for patients. You can filter the records by patients or patient ID, and then you can filter by status. Right? You can filter by insurance. So was the transaction validated? Is it pending or was it declined? All right. Now you can also filter by dates as well. And you can sort by, say, newest first, which by default you would want to have the newest records first so that you can deal with that. Or you can filter by amounts, insurance, status, or the patient's name or alias. So alias is there for non-clinical charges. So when you've selected a filter, right, you can click on clear filters to remove all the filters and set it back to default. And you can also export the data here. So let's handle a pending bill. All right, so we see these transactions are pending. Now you click on open patient billing. All right, open patient billing takes you to the bills for that patient. All right, now on this screen, you see that the patient has a wallet balance. All right, total inflow, total claims, total outstanding. And because this patient is insured, you can see the insurance provider here. All right, now let's top up this patient's wallet. And let's say we want this amount in the patient's wallet. All right, so now our patient has some money in their wallet. Now, for each transaction, because the patient is insured, you have the option to validate insurance. If you don't validate insurance, the patient will be charged for that particular bill in full. All right, so you can see that here. So original amount, because this transaction has not been validated, that's not available yet, or not applicable. Amount covered, not applicable because it has not been validated. Now the out-of-pocket payments for this would be 2,000 if we proceed as is. The patient has paid 0 and there have been no discounts. All right, so in this case, let's go ahead and validate. All right, the decision, was it validated or declined? We can set it to declined, but let's set it to validated. Now, because the profile that we're logged in as has permission to modify percentage, let's go ahead and modify the percentage. All right, so the default for this insurer is 25%. Let's make it 35%. And you see that the patient will be charged this amount. So if we proceed, you now see the insurance has been validated. This is the name of the person that validated it. All right, the original amount was 2,000. The amount covered is 735%, and our pocket payments will be 1,300. All right, now if there's any error, you can undo the validation. All right, you can click to undo, and then you can go ahead and record payments. So the options to for payment are marking as paid, deferring payments, or waiving the charge. Now, deferring payments and waiving charges, these are permissions that your admin will decide if you should have. So your admin gives you the permission to defer payments, waive charges. You can do that. In this case, let's mark it as paid, and we're making a direct payment, right? But you can also pay from this wallets. So let's for this, let's go to direct payments and the payment type. Right? So in the options for payment type are control settings. If anything is in here, you go ahead and speak to your Fasti admin and they'll get that sorted. In this case, let's go with POS. And if you have the permission, right, you can specify a discount amount. In this case, let's say a discount of 500 and a reason. Again, this is based on the permission. If you have the permission to add a discount, you add. All right, so we see that the transaction or the bill has been paid. All right, it was validated. The original amount, the amount covered, your distance, and then the amount paid. So it was generated by the user, it was recorded by the same user, and then your timestamp well. All right, so let's look at when the insurance was declined. Patient will be charged the full amount, and you have it recorded there that in this case, it's not covered. All right, so the patient has to pay the amount. Now, record payments. Let's charge this to. Let's defer the payment first. Defer payments. You go ahead and save. So what happens when you defer a payment is, for example, an investigation. Right, the patient can go ahead, or the lab can go ahead with the investigation, or IME can go ahead with the scan. Right, that's if you defer a payment, they can go ahead, but you still need to and then clear that bill later on. All right, now in this case, let's record payments. Let's come back. Now we're paying from the patient's wallet. All right, it shows the wallet balance, and the payment type becomes disabled, but you can still enter a discount when paying from it. In this case, let's leave that blank and let's just pay straight from the wallet. So your wallet balance is updated and that bill is paid. So let's look at what happens when a bill waived, validated. Let's say the insurer covers 90%. All right. And when you go to record payments, you select waive charge. And you have to write a reason why the bill is being waived. All right. So that bill was waived. The insurer covered 90% of it, and the patient did not make any payments. So that is it for handling transactions. Next, you want to look at claims. So for the different health insurers, all right, so you can see that AXA had one patient that made 3 claims, and all 3 were approved. All right, for BridgeHMS, you have 1 patient with 2 claims, and both of them approved as well. All right, you have 4 insurers in the system, 2 insured patients, there are 5 claims, and the total claim is 10,100. Now you can look at all the claims that patients. You can expect that. You can open the patient's details if you have the permission. All right, so if you have the permission, you can go through and do that. Next, you have reports. All right, and, financial reports for the facility. Total revenue, for the facility. You have the total patient wallet balance. So this is the amount across all patient wallets that is currently being held. You can filter by dates, but optional. You can provide a date range, but that is optional. Right. Then you have your revenue departments. Just a breakdown of the revenue and the percentage share, the revenue by service, by billables, and then by pharmacy items. And you can export this data as a CSV file. Next, you have your non-clinical charges. Right, you have your non-clinical charges. Click Add Non-Clinical Charge. You select the item, and you create a billing instance. Now, the difference between the non-clinical charges and regular transactions is the non-clinical charges are tied to any patient. Like, you don't need to provide patient information. You can just go ahead and create it. Now, if you come back to transactions, you would see the non-clinical charge. Right? You open billing, and you can record the payments. It was marked as paid. All right, and let's say bank transfer, paid in full. Okay, and that's it for non-clinical charges. So to add more charges to the system, you come to settings and then non-clinical charges. All right. And these are just examples. Again, so you can access this if you have the permit to do that. So once that is added, it now shows up as a non-clinical chart. All right, now you have expenses. All right, so operating expenses for the facility. You can add expense. Let's say the amount was this, the date is day. And expense category. So more categories, you just let your facility admin know and they would add that category. So which department, and which department incurred the expense, records. And then supporting documents, invoices, receipts, you can add them here. Well, you have that expense. It has not been approved yet, so the user with the permission to approve expenses clicks on view. All right, you can do the supporting documents, and you can okay, you can approve or reject. All right, so that expense is now approved. So to print out receipts, all right, you select the transaction that you want. All right, so you open the patients, you select the transactions that you want, all right, and you click on print selected receipts. Once that's done, you get its print out. You can save as a PDF or you can print it out with your thermal printer directly. So that covers the flow for handling patients, bills, and charges.